6 elementary school kids were living their best lives in 2034 as the top group of legends named Subaru in a popular multiplayer RPG called Union. Unfortunately, they went their separate ways when a key member of their group, Asahi, died in the real world after getting a game over in the game. The game is shut down due to her death, and 6 years later, a new similar game called Reunion is launched. The former leader of Subaru, Haruto, who is now a boring, depressed teenager, logs into the new game and is shocked to see the dead Asahi alive inside the game. However, Asahi doesn't remember dying and cannot log out of the game. The duo sets out to reconnect the remaining members and restore the legendary Subaru. Unfortunately, the members have changed and Haruto is soon pulled into a roller coaster ride of mysteries and complicated teenage love triangles with a touch of deranged Delulu from 3 members of Subaru. Can the members of Subaru reunite to uncover the shady mysteries surrounding the deadly online game? Or will they continue their teenage love drama and leave poor, happy-go-lucky, optimistic Asahi stuck inside a game? The story begins inside a multiplayer RPG game called Union in the year 2034. A group of incompetent players are chatting about the famous team of 6 players known as Subaru, who are tackling a challenging quest. This quest has never been attempted since a top player group lost half of its members in a battle with the final boss. If a player dies in this level, they're out of the game for good. The leader of Subaru is Haruto, a fighter with killer unique skills. Takanori, the vice leader, is a divine champion with immense power. Satsuki, also called the Queen of Elementals, can control a horde of elementals. Clive is a shapeshifter, Nozomi is a timid dream mage, and Asahi is a powerful empath. The Subaru team possesses all 6 sets of powers in the game known as senses. In addition to her empath sense, Asahi has a rare ability called the Prophet Art, which lets her glimpse into the future. One of the less skilled players is envious and wants them to stop talking about Subaru. What irks most players is that the members of Subaru are actually a group of elementary school kids. Even though they are kids, they are the most powerful party in the Union. After defeating the final boss, the members of Subaru head back to their hideout to plan their next move. Asahi updates the team about a new quest that remains unconquered by any player group. She wants them to be the first to win the quest. The rest of the team readily agrees to take on the quest. While Asahi talks to Clive about Nozomi's failed swim, Satsuki gives Haruto a ring. This catches Clive's attention, and he starts teasing Satsuki. Shortly after, the entire team makes a promise to stick together. They often meet in person, but Clive has never met them in real life because he lives in a different country. The team meets up the following day to prepare for the quest. Satsuki heads into the woods to look for Haruto and Asahi. She finds them making a promise to each other and exchanging rings. Satsuki is devastated because she has feelings for Haruto. On their way into the quest location, Clive notices Satsuki's depressing demeanor. The team easily clears all the lower levels of the quest in no time. They were all disappointed because they expected it to be harder. They avoided all the traps because of Asahi's Prophet Art powers. Clive notes that the power makes Asahi the most wanted player in the Union. However, she only wants to use her powers for Subaru. Takanori vows to destroy any group that tries to take Asahi from them. Meanwhile, Satsuki burns with jealousy as she watches Asahi and Haruto. At the final level, they face the giant boss of pure darkness. Asahi uses her Prophet Art powers to warn them about its impending attack. Despite working together, the boss keeps regenerating after each strike. Clive, Satsuki, and Takanori slow the boss down, while Haruto charges in to attack it. He is too overexcited, and Takanori warns him to calm down. Nozomi is distracted while summoning one of her dream animals. Asahi calls her attention to the imminent attack, but she stays frozen in place. Haruto quickly rushes in to save her. Unfortunately, he gets struck down and loses his ring. In a twist of events, Asahi sacrifices herself to save Haruto. After she dies in the game, the members try to contact Asahi in real life. However, she doesn't respond to their calls and texts, so they rush over to her house. They shockingly discover that she had a heart attack at the same time she died in the game. On the day of her funeral, Haruto is too devastated to go inside. Even though the police said the Union game had nothing to do with Asahi's death, it was suspended. Takanori blames Haruto for Asahi's death. 6 years later, a new game called Reunion was launched. One day, Haruto's friend calls him and begs him to log into the game. He wants Haruto to be the 3rd member of a 3-person quest. Old Union players can also log into the new game with their old account. Haruto adamantly refuses to have anything to do with the game that destroyed his life. Haruto has become a gloomy teenager who prefers to stay cooped up in his room. While sitting at the table, he watches the news of the latest game announcement on TV. His younger sister brings him his meal and inquires about the game. Haruto insists that he has never played it. The announcer declares that outstanding players will receive scholarships and a chance to work for the game company. However, the game is exclusively for those with the unique sense trait. Haruto barely touches his food and retreats to his room. He gets a message from his friend pleading with him to join the game. Haruto gears up and enters the new game. He immediately notices the significant changes within the game world. Upon inspecting his stats, he realizes that his old equipment is missing. Soon, his two less than appealing friends join him, and they set off to complete the quest. The duo treats Haruto like a newbie, and cautions him that dying in reunion will result in permanent account deletion. They act all high and mighty because of the sense trait. However, Haruto regrets ever having it. Once they enter the dungeon, Haruto quickly realizes the two clowns are clueless players. Not only that, but they were already part of a guild. They begged Haruto for help since no one else wanted to deal with their incompetence. When the monsters draw near, Haruto shuts his eyes to devise a plan, but the two idiots charge recklessly. Luckily, he steps in just in time to save them. They finally realize that he is a skilled player. Suddenly, a strange glitch occurs, and the dungeon begins to transform. This catches Haruto off guard, as it never happened in the previous version of the game. They walk straight into a dead-end room with no monsters or traps. At the far end, they find a treasure chest. The two fools are too scared to open it, so they make Haruto do it. To his greatest surprise, he finds Asahi inside the chest asleep. She awakens and recognizes Haruto. However, she doesn't seem surprised to see him. After taking Asahi out of the box, the two fools leave her with Haruto and head to the guild. Asahi keeps trying to talk to Haruto, but he is still in shock. He calls her an imposter and wants to tell her about her death 6 years ago. However, a group of players starts gathering around to look at Asahi. They recognized her as the dead member of Subaru. Haruto quickly grabs her and runs off. Asahi was puzzled by Haruto's strange behavior. He questions her about her login location, and she tells him she is logged in from her room. He inquired about her whereabouts for 6 years, but Asahi found the question perplexing. She remembered playing with them yesterday and discussing Nozomi's swimming with Clive. Asahi's mind was still stuck in 2034. Haruto informs her they are now in 2040. She pulls up her info box and is surprised to see the date. She attempted to log out, but her logout button wouldn't work. Haruto shows her that his button is functioning. Then they try to contact an operator. However, they get a notification that Asahi's account is unregistered. She asks him about the rest of the group. Haruto hasn't spoken to them in 6 years. He blurts out that she died 6 years ago. She bursts into laughter and refuses to believe him. News of Asahi's return has spread, and a group of players show up to take her away from Haruto. Asahi recognizes the guy, but Haruto has no recollection of him. The dude is furious and angrily reminds Haruto of his identity. He then invites Asahi to join his team, but she declines, expressing her desire to stay with Subaru. The man informs her that the group disbanded years ago. She doesn't believe him and turns to Haruto for answers. Haruto, however, refuses to respond. The players encircle them, and their leader delivers a powerful blow to Haruto. Realizing he can no longer use his sense trait, the man charges in for another attack. Asahi's prophetic power kicks in, guiding Haruto on what to do. Haruto evades the attack while Asahi supports him with her gun. The players are amazed by her abilities and crave them even more. Suddenly, her sense trait deactivates, rendering her unable to use it any longer. Shortly after, Takanori arrives with his gang. Takanori is now a member of one of the most influential guilds in Reunion, known as Illuminati. With a single touch, he disarms the leader, prompting him and his team to retreat immediately. Takanori teleports his team away and stays behind to converse with Asahi. Takanori is delighted to see Asahi and has no doubts about her authenticity. He advises her to forget about Haruto and follow him. He believes that Haruto will only be a hindrance without his powers. Haruto is puzzled as to why Takanori isn't surprised by Asahi's resurrection. Takanori refuses to talk with him, still holding Haruto responsible for Asahi's demise 6 years ago. Asahi declines the offer and opts to stay with Haruto. Before departing, Takanori tells her to reach out if she requires assistance. Asahi is bewildered by his strange behavior. Haruto explains that everyone has changed. She inquires about their last promise, but Haruto cannot recall it. Despite all this, Asahi remains unfazed. She enthusiastically informs Haruto that she will reunite the team once more. Next, we see Satsuki visiting Asahi's grave in real life. Meanwhile, Haruto has logged out of the game. However, he can't stop thinking about Asahi. His sister interrupts to tell him he has a visitor, who turns out to be Satsuki. They have an awkward reunion, and Haruto invites her inside. He thanked her for supporting him when Takanori blamed him for Asahi's death. Satsuki reveals that she also logged into the game recently and saw Haruto, but he logged out before she could talk to him. Haruto tells her he found Asahi in the game and left her at an inn. He plans to leave her in Takanori's care and never return to the game. He also confesses that he logged in to get a game over and delete his ID forever. He wants to forget the past and his memories with them. Haruto's sister steps out of the kitchen to serve them drinks. However, she is surprised to see Satsuki leaving already. She rushes in to scold Haruto for making Satsuki leave. The next day, Satsuki reunites with Asahi and tells her about her death and funeral. Asahi gets the needed rude awakening from her heart-wrenching words. Satsuki fears that Asahi might disappear like a bug, and doesn't want them to go through the pain they faced 6 years ago. While they are talking, an arrow almost hits them, but Haruto steps in to block the attack. A group of masked players quickly surrounds them, aiming to capture Asahi. Satsuki then summons numerous magic circles in the sky and warns them to stay back. Realizing she is the renowned queen of elementals, the intruders begin to retreat. However, Satsuki decides to teach them a lesson by unleashing a series of powerful attacks, defeating the group. Asahi is thrilled to witness Satsuki's skills with her new whip, while Haruto comments on her being overly dramatic and ruthless as usual. After learning that the initial group was beaten by the Queen of Elementals, the leader of the Masked Guild plans to send another group to find and retrieve Asahi. Suddenly, Takanori and his team appear, threatening to take action if anyone tries to harm Asahi. The leader pleads for forgiveness and promises to stay away from Asahi. Takanori is concerned about the rapid spread of news regarding Asahi. Haruto and the girls head to their old hideout, only for Asahi to realize that all her hidden items are missing. Haruto comes across the ring Satsuki gave him years ago. Satsuki was disappointed that he never wore it. Meanwhile, Asahi continues searching for their lost items. Haruto leaves them in the room and steps outside to clear his mind. He encounters a mysterious girl emerging from the shadows. Haruto wonders if she is also after Asahi's powers. The girl, Alicia, is an empath and assures him she means no harm. Alicia explains that Asahi's power is unique and not one of the 6 senses in Reunion. She warns Haruto about lurking threats planning to exploit Asahi's abilities. She urges him to protect Asahi and confront his past before disappearing into the shadows. Meanwhile, inside the hideout, Satsuki and Asahi are immersed in a heated argument. Satsuki wants Asahi to disappear and stop confusing Haruto. Asahi tries to convince her she can still use her prophetic art powers. Satsuki doesn't believe it because Asahi only used it once since her awakening. Since then, she has not been able to summon it. Haruto hides behind the door, listening to them bicker. Satsuki fears that Asahi might disappear again, which will destabilize Haruto's mental health again. Haruto soon intervenes and angrily logs out of the game. Satsuki visits him the following morning to apologize for the craziness yesterday. She was angry because she was jealous of Asahi. Satsuki didn't want to lose Haruto to her. She indirectly professes her love for him, but the dumb could not understand her. She then asks him about the promise he made with Asahi in the past. However, Haruto doesn't remember making any promises with Asahi before the quest 6 years ago. Satsuki shows him a copy of their team ring. The group had made a replica of the ring in real life. Suddenly, Haruto remembers exchanging rings with Asahi before their last quest. He rushes off to her grave to dig out his copy of the real ring. Asahi also wanted to exchange rings with him in real life. Sadly, she passed away before they had the chance, so Haruto decided to bury his ring near her grave. He attempted to recollect the promise they had exchanged, but it slipped from his memory. Anyway, Haruto decided to help Asahi instead of running away. Before leaving, Satsuki sees Asahi's favorite flowers on her grave. It turns out Takanori was watching them from a corner. However, he didn't want to talk to them. The following day, Haruto accompanies Asahi to defeat some tree monsters. She was trying to find some special rare item. However, she didn't want to tell Haruto why she needed the item badly. She was even being too reckless, which made Haruto worried. Fortunately, she collected one of the rare items before falling into a river. She then takes off her wet clothes to dry them. Haruto is flustered when he sees her. However, Asahi isn't shy, because they used to bathe together all the time. For her, it has only been a few days, but for poor Haruto, it has been 6 years. A group of players suddenly appear close to the stream, so Haruto rushes over to shield her. After they leave, Asahi playfully pushes him into the water. Soon she starts talking about her family and how much she misses them. Haruto learns she has been crying and trying to log out of the game whenever they left her alone at the inn. He embraces her and promises to find a way for her to leave the game world. Meanwhile, Satsuki is still at home thinking about how Haruto always protected her in the past. Asahi uses the rare tree item inside the game world to remake one Subaru team ring. Asahi wants Haruto to wear the ring, but he refuses to accept it. However, seeing how much effort she put into getting it, he finally places it on her ring finger. Later on, they meet up with Satsuki at the fountain, and Asahi proudly shows off her new ring to her. Satsuki is envious when she learns that Haruto placed the ring on Asahi's left ring finger. Feeling jealous, she hurries to the blacksmith to make a copy of the ring for herself. When she returns, she tries to hint to Haruto to put the ring on her finger, but he doesn't catch on. In the end, she had to put it on herself. After the short drama, Haruto leads them to the place of their last quest 6 years ago. He wanted to face his past just like Alicia had advised and also look for clues about Asahi's death. The dungeon was inactive, so the trio were not worried about facing the final boss. Haruto tells Asahi to try remembering any details from that night. Asahi is happy that he is finally helping her and hugs him. Satsuki is jealous and gives Haruto a death stare. Asahi then proposes they reach out to Takanori, Clive, and Nozomi to join them. However, Satsuki and Haruto have not been in touch with the pair for 6 years. Despite this, they decide to continue, and Asahi attempts to jog her memory. Unfortunately, she draws a blank, so Haruto suggests they leave. As they head towards the exit, Asahi senses a presence behind the door. However, Haruto and Satsuki are unable to detect anything. Haruto then looks back and sees the mysterious Alicia summoning the Dark Boss from their previous quest before vanishing. Satsuki recommends finding a way to escape as they are no match for the boss. Asahi notices that its eyes are red instead of green. The monster, seemingly anticipating their thoughts, destroys the exit, trapping them inside. Haruto suggests searching for another way out, but Asahi insists they stay and fight. She reassures them that they can emerge victorious this time. Haruto jokingly calls her crazy, pointing out that they couldn't defeat the boss with a 6-member party, let alone with just 3. Satsuki agrees, stating that without Asahi's future reading ability, they are in trouble. The monster launches an attack, but Asahi remains hopeful that Haruto will win. Satsuki decides to engage in battle, utilizing all her elemental powers. She merges them in an attempt to destroy the monster. Regrettably, none of her attacks break through the magical barrier protecting the boss. In response, the monster strikes back and nearly crushes her. She manages to leap out of danger, but her foot is left paralyzed by a magical blast. Haruto tries to help her, but the monster flings him against a huge boulder. Asahi then rushes in with her puny gun to protect him. She refuses to run when Haruto tells her to leave. She reminds him that they made a promise. The monster tries to strike her, however, she swiftly ducks. She shoots the roof above, making it collapse on the boss. Unfortunately, she can't move because her leg is paralyzed by the blast emitted from the monster's weapon. Haruto is feeling helpless as he struggles to get back up. Suddenly, he sees the ring he lost during the quest 6 years ago. It triggers his memory of the promise he made with Asahi back then. Just before the unfortunate event, they exchanged rings and promised to protect each other no matter what. Haruto garnered all his strength and picked up the ring. After wearing the ring, he rises back up and vows never to run away again. Just then, the monster finally frees itself from the collapsed boulder and tries to attack Asahi. Haruto's power returns and cuts off the monster's arm. He then freezes the boss in place with his lion fighter sense. Suddenly, Asahi's power kicks in once again. She uses it to show Satsuki the outcome of Haruto's fight ahead of time. Just as she predicted, Haruto obliterates the monster with several strikes. After the battle, Satsuki apologizes to Asahi for doubting her. She agrees that Asahi is still somehow alive and vows to find a way for her to log out of the game. The trio makes a new promise to find the truth and return Subaru to its former glory. Asahi is thrilled that Haruto's sense has returned. She's eager to gather the remaining members of Subaru. Satsuki and Haruto are concerned that the others won't want to return, but Asahi is her usual overly optimistic self and assures them that everything will work out. Satsuki discovers a red broken crystal in Asahi's dress. Asahi takes the crystal and almost passes out. Suddenly, the crystal triggers a strange vision that Haruto and Satsuki also witness. She wonders if that was part of the 6 years missing from her memories. Soon afterward, the trio returns to the inn, only to receive strange looks from people. They ignore the whispers and head into Asahi's room. Shortly after, Satsuki's flower elemental returns from its gossip hunt. She had sent it out earlier to gather rumors from around town. From the weird flower, they learned that everyone knows about their battle with the Dark Boss. Haruto finds it suspicious that the rumor spread so quickly, just like when he found Asahi. With the news spreading, he knows more people will come for Asahi. He wants to find a way to log her out of the game ASAP. Satsuki notes that the last part of the vision from the red crystal looks like a lab, but unfortunately, the vision was too blurry to make out the location. With no clue on what to do next, Asahi firmly orders them to find Nozomi and Clive. She believes that they can solve the challenge with more team members present. Satsuki suggests using informants to see whether Clive and Nozomi have logged into Reunion. On their way to see an informant, they encounter some players running from a dangerous guild, Southern Cross. Haruto suggests they avoid trouble and visit the informant later. On their way back to the inn, they are unfortunately ambushed by the Southern Cross Guild. Letos, the leader of the group, demands that Haruto hand over Asahi to him. Satsuki suggests escaping through the sky, but arrows suddenly fly out of nowhere to warn her. They were surrounded by 1,000 guild members with no escape route. Suddenly, the Brill Society guild members appeared out of nowhere, with weapons pointed at Letos' army. The leader of the group, Angelus, tells Letos to leave quietly. He claims that he only intends to talk to Haruto and his friends. Letos knows he is outmatched and decides to retreat. After they leave, Angelus claims to want peace and asks Haruto to join his group. He claims it is the only way to protect Asahi. Angelus is an avid fan of Reunion and wants to be in absolute control of the game world. He is probably a jobless, pathetic loser in real life, so he doesn't want anyone to mess things up for him in his perfect world. He believes that if one of the big guilds grabs Asahi, they may assume supremacy of Reunion and make life hard for him. Asahi rejects his offer and refuses to join any group that isn't Subaru. Angelus immediately leaves but promises to do everything in his power to defeat them if they mess up his perfect world. Shortly after, Takanori received a report about the 2 powerful guilds that approached Asahi. After hearing the news, he vows to destroy anyone who lays a hand on his beloved Asahi. The following day, Satsuki and Haruto meet up in the real world. Satsuki was hoping that Haruto would invite her out on a date. Unfortunately, he only dragged her through the mall to help him shop for gaming equipment. After shopping, she was angry and tried to leave, but Haruto invited her to have lunch with him. Satsuki is excited and takes him to a dating hotspot to get dessert. Inside the restaurant, Haruto informs her that he couldn't reach Clive via email. Satsuki also didn't have any luck reaching Nozomi. The dessert is soon served and she enjoys it thoroughly. Unfortunately, Haruto ruins the mood by talking about Asahi. He wouldn't stop yapping about her, which made Satsuki angry. She almost creates a scene in the restaurant and furiously walks out, leaving Haruto confused. The following day, things remained awkward between the duo inside the game. Anyway, they decide to find clues about the vision from the red crystal. Asahi tries to remember any details, but she can't. They decide to retrace their steps to the place where Asahi first activated her prophet art powers. Soon afterward, they head to the tower and defeat a few monsters. This reminded them of their first mission there. Back then, Satsuki was not strong enough and almost got killed in the game, but the team saved her. Remembering the past only made her mood worse than it was earlier. On their way to the last stage, they noticed she was distracted. As soon as they enter the final room, a mechanized robot is activated. The group sets into action, battling the giant robot. In no time, they cleared the first round. A thick fog then flows into the room to begin the second round. Haruto instructs Satsuki to blow off the fog with her light elemental. Unfortunately, her mind was a mess and she didn't see a rope creep up and grab her. Asahi quickly shoots a light to clear off the fog. Haruto charges towards the robot while Asahi rushes over to help Satsuki. Haruto effortlessly defeats the robot and clears the second stage in no time. After the battle, Haruto makes a joke about the tiny rope robot that grabs Satsuki's leg. She angrily snapped at him and walked away. Shortly after, they reach the top of the tower. Instead of trying to work on her fuzzy memory, Asahi just wants to have fun. However, she is worried about Satsuki's foul mood and suggests they go back to the inn. She pulls out her item box to find a teleportation device, but sees a red broken crystal. She is confused because she doesn't remember putting it there. After checking the stone, she noticed it was different from the last one. Besides, she left the other crystal at the inn. Ashi wants to press it like she did the other one, but Haruto tries to stop her. Suddenly, Takanori appears and manages to collect the stone. He had been watching them and saw her collapse when she touched the other stone in the dungeon. He didn't want it to happen again. Takanori accuses Haruto of trying to kill Asahi again by letting her touch something dangerous. He challenges Haruto to a fight for Asahi. He wants to be the one to protect her because he doesn't find Haruto worthy. Asahi tries to stop the boys from fighting, but Takanori isolates himself and Haruto inside a barrier for the fight. The fight begins, and with one punch from Takanori, Haruto's fighting sense deactivates. Takanori tells him that since Asahi can't log out, he has made preparations to live inside reunion with her forever. Haruto scolds him for trying to do something stupid. He believes keeping Asahi inside the game will never make her happy. Takanori is stubborn and wants to remove Haruto from the game forever, so that he can have Asahi for himself. The boys summon their powers for an explosive clash. Unfortunately, Satsuki destroys the isolation barrier before they can do any damage to each other. Takanori decides to leave when Asahi also turns against him. He calls Satsuki his partner in crime and reminds her that they have a common interest. Asahi asks him if he knows the whereabouts of Nozomi and Clive. However, he ignores her and vanishes. After the confrontation, Satsuki's mood changes and she logs out before Haruto can stop her. Meanwhile, Takanori returns to his castle to make plans with the leaders of Brill Society and the Southern Cross Guild. He wants to join hands with them to gain supremacy over the game world against two other powerful guilds, Gnosis and Hyades. Takanori only wants to help them so that he can have Asahi. He is not interested in their fight for control. That night, Takanori's words kept hunting Satsuki in her dreams. It turns out he was also present when she saw Haruto and Asahi exchanging rings. That day, she learned that he was in love with Asahi. Meanwhile, Asahi and Haruto are still at the inn worrying about Satsuki. Since she has refused to log back into the game, they decide to find an informant without her. First, they visit a teleporter to ship them to another village inside the game. As soon as they arrive at the village, the duo visits an informant to ask about Clive and Nozomi. Unfortunately, they couldn't find any clues about them. While pondering their next move, Asahi suggests finding another weapon for Haruto. His current sword was worn and useless. The only sword that can withstand Haruto's power is his sword, Pleiades. Unfortunately, he has no idea what happened to the sword. Shortly after, they met up with Satsuki. She apologizes to them for her moody attitude yesterday. On their way back, the group ponders what to do next. Satsuki suggests traveling to other parts to visit more informants. However, with the bad foggy weather, it may be challenging to travel. Satsuki finds the fog suspicious and checks her info box. She immediately realizes that they have walked straight into an ambush. Haruto's fighting sense didn't pick up any danger in the area because they cloaked their magic with complex magic. Satsuki could feel the unpleasant magic of an empath close by. Suddenly, they are separated from each other. Satsuki is teleported to face Angelus, who happens to have the empath sense and the Brill Society. Haruto, on the other hand, is teleported to Ledos and the Southern Cross. Haruto is surprised to see one of Angelus's men with Ledos. Letos confesses that they have joined hands with the Brill Society and Illuminati. The Brill Society helped them cloak their auras so that Haruto couldn't sense their presence in the fog earlier. Meanwhile, Takanori and his group have surrounded Asahi. Angelus gives Satsuki a device with a message from Takanori. He reveals Takanori's magic transported the trio to separate areas and also helped them create the fog. In the message, Takanori tries to convince Satsuki to take Haruto and leave Reunion. Asahi does not exist in the real world, which gives her a perfect chance to keep him to herself. Takanori, so he plans to remove Haruto from Reunion and keep Asahi to himself. After pondering about it, Satsuki refuses to side with the deranged lover boy. Suddenly, knives fly out of nowhere attacking Angelus and his army. Satsuki also summons a massive flame and starts attacking them fiercely. She discovered the knives that pierced Angelus and his men earlier, which looked an awful lot like Clive's weapons. Meanwhile, Haruto is also tearing Letos apart. Letos knows he is outmatched, so he tells Haruto to join him. When Haruto refuses, they continue fighting. Suddenly, Alicia appears and shoots a light arrow, piercing Letos' armor. He tries to fight back, but his power remains dormant due to the arrow. Alicia informs him that she possesses the ability to seal other senses. She fires an arrow into the sky, causing it to rain down on the army, leaving them powerless. After dealing with the remaining hidden soldiers, she instructs Haruto to locate Asahi. Meanwhile, Asahi tries to reason with Takanori, but he refuses to listen due to his greed to separate her from Haruto. Takanori swiftly traps her in a crystal and uses gas to render her unconscious. Suddenly, some of his mind-controlled men, under the influence of Angelus, capture Asahi and turn on Takanori. One of them summons a giant bird and escapes with her. In the meantime, Letos and Angelus announce to the gaming community that they have joined forces to create a new guild named Divine. They also reveal that they have Asahi's prophet art on their side. After watching the news, Haruto decides to go on the offensive against the new guild alone. Satsuki tries to dissuade him, but he refuses to listen. She wonders how he plans to defeat a group with 3,000 players alone. He vows to save Asahi, even if it means game over for him. He asks Satsuki not to follow him because he noticed she was battling some inner demons. With her mind in a mess, Haruto knows she will only hold him back. Before leaving, he instructs her to join hands with Takanori and retrieve Asahi if anything happens to him. Soon, Haruto arrives at the Divine Guild headquarters to face the 3,000-player army. Haruto is ready to risk it all and get kicked out of the game to save Asahi. With no care in the world, he charges head-on to fight them. After Haruto left, Satsuki remained at the inn to clear her mind. She then recalled the first time Asahi used her prophet art powers. That day, everyone was relying on Satsuki's powers, but she lost confidence in herself. Haruto had to step in to save her because she was distracted. Unfortunately, the robot pinned them in the middle with no way out. That was when Asahi's power to see the future kicked in, and she instructed everyone on how to defeat the beast. After defeating it, everyone surrounded Asahi praising her new ability, while Satsuki stood by a corner seething with jealousy. Haruto noticed her crying and tried to talk to her, but Clive stopped him. Asahi then approached Satsuki to cheer her up. She knew that Satsuki was feeling like she was useless to the team. Satsuki got angry and blamed Asahi for reading her mind. However, Asahi didn't read her mind. She knew about Satsuki's feelings for Haruto, and understood she wanted to be the one always by his side. Asahi confessed she was jealous of Satsuki because she always fought next to Haruto during quests. After some heartfelt mumbo-jumbo, the girls agreed to keep their feelings from Haruto. They decided to compete for his attention and confess their feelings to him someday. After gathering her thoughts, Satsuki decided to visit Takanori. She discovered that he didn't have any plans to rescue Asahi anytime soon. As usual, he wanted to wait and make some grand plans. She informs him that Haruto has already gone to save her. Takanori is happy to hear the news because he is sure that Haruto will die and get evicted from the Reunion. Satsuki informs him that she has decided to support Haruto no matter what, even if it means losing him to Asahi. Satsuki was Asahi's friend long before they met Takanori and Haruto. She didn't want to abandon her friend over some D. While the lover boy and girl are still chatting, Haruto is having his arse whooped by the 3,000 players. However, he refuses to give up and keeps advancing. The crazy soldiers soon bind his powers using a magic chain and prepare to end him. Thankfully, Takanori and Satsuki arrive in time to save him. Takanori claims he only came to save Asahi and not to return to the group. Haruto informs them that he has already taken out 1,500 players. In no time, Takanori and Haruto finish off the rest of the army and break into the Divine Fortress. Meanwhile, Clive and Alicia are seen from a distance observing the show. Inside the castle, Satsuki notices jewels on the walls to nullify her elemental magic. They discover that Angelus is using his empath sense to tap into Asahi's power, causing her to fall into a slumber. With his new power, Angelus makes it impossible for Takanori to make any move. Soon they bind Takanori with a material he can't destroy. Angelus had made preparations ahead of time to render their powers useless inside the castle. Haruto engages in a fight with Letos. Unfortunately, Letos evades the attack thanks to Angelus's new digs. Satsuki calls out to Asahi to wake her up. However, it doesn't work because of Angelus's mind control. His men immediately attack Satsuki to shut her up. Satsuki recalls how Asahi wanted to use her power only to protect Haruto. She found it unforgivable that someone was trying to use that same power to hurt Haruto instead. Despite the jewels surrounding the castle, Satsuki summons the powerful 6 elemental kings, the strongest powers from her days in Union. Everyone is shocked to see an old power from the old game that should not exist inside Reunion. The kings combine their powers into a magic circle and destroy Angelus' traps and his men. Takanori is immediately freed from the powerful bind, and Angelus loses control of Asahi's power. As his last resort, Angelus summons some dark magic filled with the wrath of the 3,000 soldiers defeated earlier. He used their negative emotions to make Letos stronger and turn him into a beast. The beast immediately attacks Takanori and Haruto. Asahi wakes up and, like her usual optimistic self, she cheers her friends on. Suddenly, the red crystal taken by Takanori earlier rises into the sky. It also affects their Subaru team rings. Takanori had his ring around his neck. Suddenly, the crystal shows 3 of them a vision from 6 years ago. Just like the old days, the trio combine their powers to fight the beast. Takanori taps into his divinity sense to manipulate time, while Satsuki teams up with Haruto to warp spaces and slice through dimensions, ultimately defeating the beast. Angelus looks shocked and puzzled, so Haruto explained their special Subaru move called Estrella. In a desperate attempt to flee, Angelus is grilled by Satsuki and sent back to his pathetic, sad life. After the battle, Takanori returns Asahi Crystal to her. She uses it to watch another vision just like the one Haruto and Satsuki saw in the dungeon. This time, Takanori also witnesses the visions. Asahi noticed the Subaru ring on his neck and asked him to join them, but he refused. He was ashamed of himself for trying to force his feelings on her. Takanori sternly informs Haruto that he doesn't plan on being friends with him. After he vanishes, Asahi calls him a goat for being too stubborn. She then thanks Satsuki for coming back for her. Satsuki reminds her of their promise to compete for Haruto's heart as friendly rivals. Haruto sees the girls whispering and tries to get in on it. However, they tell him to back off. Meanwhile, Clive and Alicia are still on the cliff outside the castle. Alicia notes that the group is weaker than before. She's glad that Satsuki has awakened her powers, but that leaves Takanori, Haruto, and Asahi. It turns out that Clive changed his name, so they couldn't locate him. He is still planning one more show before he reunites with the rest of the team. After a challenging week filled with intense battles and romantic entanglements, Haruto and the girls unwind and enjoy the beach. Soon after, they set sail on a pirate ship in pursuit of a powerful sword for Haruto. Rumor has it that an unbreakable sword is lodged at the bottom of the ocean. They reach the dangerous foggy area, and the pirate cautions them about the hazards ahead. They board a smaller boat while the pirate stays behind. Haruto instructs her to retreat if things get too risky. Before long, they plunge into the sea, and Satsuki uses her elemental powers to illuminate their path. The group immediately begins scouring the sea for the lost sword. Haruto checks his stats and notices his HP rapidly dwindling, so he calls off the search. They return to their small boat to regroup and recover their HP. Suddenly, Asahi has a strange intuition about the sword's location. Haruto thinks it's too vague, but Satsuki believes it's worth a shot, so they head in the direction she indicated earlier. Just as she sensed, they found the sword, which turned out to be Pleiades, Haruto's old sword. Satsuki wonders if it is another sword with the same design. However, Haruto could tell it was the same sword. He heads in to pull the sword, but the earth beneath them starts quaking. Suddenly, a giant monster rises from the ground. It turns out the sword was stuck in its head. Asahi noticed that the monster had the same red eyes as the monsters they defeated during their other quests. They immediately begin to battle the beast. It almost crushes Asahi, but Clive's knives intervene while Satsuki catches her. After the reunion, they decide to head back up to regroup. However, when they return to the pirate ship, Clive was gone. He left a letter behind, promising to return. The scene flashes back to the past when Subaru was just starting out. Some guilds united to defeat Subaru because they stole a quest from them. The guilds had announced they wanted to be the first to complete the quest, but Subaru ignored the announcement and completed it anyway. While they were still trying to devise a plan, Clive decided to leave Subaru. He believed that they couldn't win against thousands of united players. The group tried to stop him, but Clive didn't want to get a game over, so he left. Back in the present, Haruto and Satsuki visit Takanori in his father's restaurant. He tells them to order anything, so Satsuki orders all the desserts on the menu, leaving the boys stunned. Takanori makes the mistake of advising her to go easy on the calories. To Satsuki, advising her about food is like calling her fat. With a calm but menacing smile, she warns him nicely to back off. After the dessert was served, the boys watched in horror as she gobbled it in no time. Shortly after, they get down to business, discussing the mysteries surrounding Asahi's return. Takanori tells them that Gnosis, a top-secret shady guild, has been pulling strings to acquire Asahi. They are also the ones who spread the rumors about her return. This guild has a long history dating back to the old Union game. Takanori also mentioned that any player who attempted to look into the guild mysteriously vanished from Reunion. Despite reaching out to players in the real world, they refused to provide any information. He believes they they are no ordinary virtual guild because of their influence over reality. He's not sure what they're after, but he's convinced they're responsible for the bizarre events that have been going on since Asahi's return, including Letos and Angelus's betrayal. Takanori pleads with them not to tell Asahi about it because he doesn't want her to worry. Satsuki informs him of Clive's momentary appearance. The group continues discussing Haruto's sword situation. They wondered how his old sword ended up on the head of some water king in the Dead Sea. Takanori believes everything is tied to this shady guild and the red crystal with weird visions. He is convinced that someone has Asahi's body in the real world because of the visions. Satsuki and Haruto tell him he sounds ridiculous. However, Takanori believed that the people in the vision looked like they were looking at her body. Soon, they are interrupted by Takanori's butler briefing him about Nozomi's location. Takanori is embarrassed because he doesn't want them to know he has been searching for her. Soon afterward, Haruto, Satsuki, and Asahi return to the Dead Sea for another trial. Unfortunately, they couldn't defeat the sea monster and return to the ship. Just when they are about to give up, Clive appears again. He promised to explain his whereabouts after the quest. He then shows them an item they can use on the sea monster. Shortly after the dive, Clive and Satsuki combine their magic to form a protective barrier around their bodies, allowing them to breathe, move effortlessly, and communicate underwater. They already devised a brilliant plan, and in no time, Haruto fatally wounds the monster. Asahi combines her bullet with Clive's knife to form magic wires. The wires bind the sea monster, and Haruto gives Clive a boost to drag it out to the surface. While he keeps it in place with the magic strings, Satsuki freezes the water around to bind the monster. After the successful plan, Haruto heads over to grab the sword. Suddenly, Clive stabs him in the back with a knife. The shock triggers Asahi's powers to awaken. Next, the scene flashes back to when Clive deserted Subaru. After he left that day, the group escaped and continued hiding from the angry guilds. However, Clive suddenly appeared out of nowhere and rained his knives around them. Back in the present, Haruto wakes up in a hospital in the real world to find Asahi alive. He felt disoriented because the last thing he remembered was Clive stabbing him from behind. She tells him that he has been in a coma for 6 years after dying inside the game, Union. It seems he tried to protect Nozomi during the final quest. Shortly after, Satsuki and Takanori came to visit him in the hospital. He asked them about Reunion, but they had no idea what he was referring to. Later that night, Alicia showed up in his room and revealed that Asahi had created a new world after being stabbed by Clive. Shockingly, she disclosed that the senses from Union are real and can be utilized in reality. She also explained that the true power of prophet art lies not in foreseeing the future, but in the ability to select from an infinite number of potential futures. However, Asahi is unaware of her true abilities. She has only used it twice by coincidence. Once 6 years ago, when the final boss tried to kill Haruto, and the second time after Clive stabbed him. Shockingly, she says Union was made by Gnosis, a real group, to test people with special abilities called senses. They created it in a lab and disguised it as a game in order to obtain the ultimate sense, the prophet art. It turns out the obstacles they have encountered so far were orchestrated to apply psychological stress on Asahi. They wanted to force her powers to reawaken, and just as they planned, harming Haruto was always the key. After telling him the story, Alicia starts glitching and disappears, leaving Haruto with even more questions. Asahi visits Haruto the following morning to exchange rings with him. They never got to it because he fell into a coma. Haruto thanks Asahi for keeping her promise and protecting him twice. Hell, she changed the world twice just to keep the promise. However, Haruto wants to return to the other world to protect her. Haruto promises her that he will never make her sad and vows to bring back Subaru. Asahi didn't understand anything he was saying, but she believed him. Without knowing it, she started to change the world around them again and sent him back to the other world. After the roller coaster ride, Haruto returned to Reunion just before Clive stabbed him. This time, he successfully evaded the attack. Satsuki and Asahi rush in to help him. Clive informs them that he is now an enemy of Subaru. However, Haruto calls him a sneaky lying. He reveals that Clive is an imposter and a shape-shifting a-hole parading as their friend. Haruto swiftly attacks him, but fake Clive blocks the attack. However, Haruto sneaks an attack and lands him a devastating blow with his fighting sense. Due to the blow, the shape-shifting imposter's real face is revealed. The imposter activates a magic circle at the back of his palm to awaken the sea monster. He then introduces himself as Simon from Gnosis. This so-called Simon chants some mumbo-jumbo and merges himself with the monster. The new improved beast unleashes a blue flame on them. However, it is no match for Satsuki's magic barrier. Suddenly, it releases a tough wind, blowing her and Asahi away. The monster then attacks them with the fangs around its body. However, the Queen of Elementals builds several protective barriers around them. Unfortunately, this line of defense is too hard to maintain and is soon destroyed. The beast grabs Satsuki and threatens to squish her if Haruto moves a muscle. He then orders Asahi to choose another reality and save her friend. However, she doesn't understand what he means. As the monster begins to squeeze Satsuki, Asahi's prophet art suddenly awakens. Thankfully, Clive's knives come to the rescue, freeing Satsuki before Asahi can shift realities. Haruto catches Satsuki before she drops. The group was surprised when they discovered that Clive was the pirate who had been traveling with them all along. The group decides to fight together just like the old times. Monster Simon is unfazed and believes he can still defeat them despite Clive's arrival. It summons some massive lightning magic circle in the sky to crush them. Haruto swiftly rushes to Asahi's rescue and uses every fiber of his being to protect her. After the attack, they couldn't find Clive and Satsuki. The monster then tells Asahi to come with him in exchange for sparing Haruto's life. Once again, her prophet art almost kicks in, but Clive and Satsuki suddenly appear floating in the sky. It turns out Clive shapeshifted their bodies into lightning to avoid damage, and they escaped during the attack using Satsuki's wind elemental. One of Clive's knives, which was stuck in the body of the monster, suddenly transformed into some sort of anchor. Without making any visible moves, Satsuki gives Asahi a light elemental bomb. Haruto swiftly boosts Asahi into midair, and she shoots it into the monster's mouth. The light passes right through its head and anchors itself on Clive's hook. Satsuki created the light bomb to constrain people. She immediately tightens her whip to restrict the monster's movement. The beast still releases a couple of blasts when Haruto tries to approach it. However, Haruto evades the attacks and finally reaches his precious sword. While trying to remove the sword, he noticed 6 jewels around it representing the senses of union. He immediately instructs Clive, Satsuki, and Asahi to merge their powers with his. As their power combines, 4 of the rings light up, and in an exhilarating burst of light, Haruto pulls out the sword from the monster's head. The scene then flashes back to when Clive found the members of Subaru hiding from the guilds. It is revealed that Clive did not betray them. He only used them as bait to lure out the hostile players and defeat them. Following the defeat of Monster Simon and the retrieval of the sword, Haruto and the group returned to the pirate ship. Clive presented Asahi with another fragment of the red crystal, claiming it had come from the monster during the battle. Asahi examined the crystal for new visions and saw Alicia fighting off the cloaked shady men. She took them down and then sealed Asahi's prophet art sense. After sealing it, a red crystal left Asahi's body and broke into fragments. Asahi suddenly realized that the red crystals she had collected earlier were all part of a single large stone. Meanwhile, Alicia is seen in the real world, and it is revealed that she is actually a gamer. She is also wearing the Subaru team ring. Looking at the ring, Alicia makes a promise to herself to rescue Asahi and secure their future. The team takes Clive to meet Takanori, who questions his identity. Clive convinces him by showing his unique moves. Haruto then shows Takanori his old sword from Union and narrates how they retrieved it. Shortly after, Clive informs them that he has been helping them from the shadows. Haruto is surprised when he learns that Clive knows Alicia. He explains to Satsuki and Asahi that Alicia is the girl from the vision in the crystal. Satsuki and Asahi grill Haruto for secretly meeting another girl. He narrates everything Alicia told him about Asahi's powers and gnosis. Takanori refuses to believe Haruto until he meets this so-called Alicia. Haruto gets into an argument with Takanori for calling him a lying Clive then tells the group that everyone in Subaru must awaken in order to stop Gnosis from acquiring Asahi. Satsuki tells Takanori to give them Nozomi's address, and he agrees. Haruto wants him to accompany them, but he refuses. Takanori believes Nozomi is afraid of him and might not log in if she sees him with them. Satsuki labels him a clueless idiot for not understanding Nozomi's true feelings. Haruto and Satsuki visit Nozomi the following day. She runs into them outside her house. They are surprised to see a not-so-shy Nozomi. The group heads to a cafe to catch up, and Nozomi informs them that she is now a model. After the unfortunate incident 6 years ago, she changed schools and decided to change her lifestyle. They tell her about the new game and ask her to join them. Unfortunately, Nozomi informs them that she is not interested in gaming anymore. However, her eyes light up when she hears that Takanori sent them. Even after hearing about Asahi and Haruto pleading with her, she still refuses to join them. Before leaving, they agree to meet up again, and Nozomi tells them to bring Takanori with them next time. Soon afterward, Satsuki and Haruto log into the game to tell the others about their meeting with Nozomi. Satsuki shows them pictures and mentions that Nozomi is different. She then asks Takanori to follow them next time, but he refuses. Asahi pleads with him to go with them. Takanori is flustered, and after a little resistance, he agrees to follow them. Soon, the group receives a notification about an upcoming dance party in the game. Satsuki and Asahi are excited about the party because the theme revolves around some cheesy romantic stuff, but Haruto seems oblivious and unenthusiastic. When she got home, Satsuki couldn't stop thinking about the dance and how to ask Haruto. After contemplating and pacing for a while, she logs back in to meet up with him inside the game. Haruto soon arrives and wonders why she asked to meet 30 minutes earlier. He thought it was because she wanted to tell him about Nozomi. Satsuki was supposed to send her a message to arrange a meeting with Takanori. After nervously fidgeting with her fingers, Satsuki eventually asks him to the dance party. Haruto remains oblivious until she spells it out for him like a child. She even goes as far as admitting her feelings for him. Satsuki instructs him to take his time and respond the next day. That evening, Haruto couldn't stop thinking about Satsuki's love confession. As he flips through old photos, he gets a text from Takanori asking him to meet him at Asahi's grave. Soon afterward, Haruto and Takanori meet up at Asahi's grave. Haruto discovers that Takanori is the one who has been placing pink flowers on Asahi's grave. Takanori also admits to seeing him dig around the grave. He boldly declares that he plans to invite Asahi to the dance. Haruto claims he doesn't care, which makes Takanori upset. The boys soon begin to fight, and Takanori confesses his unending love for Asahi. He tells Haruto that he has never forgotten her for 6 years. After longing for her for 6 years, he couldn't understand why she appeared before Haruto. He didn't think Haruto deserved to be the one protecting her. Takanori angrily whoops Haruto's. Haruto could not even land one blow. He angrily informs Takanori that Asahi has been crying whenever everyone logs out. She has been missing her parents and wants to return home. While Takanori has been looking for ways to stay with her inside the game, Haruto says he wants to find a way to help her log out and protect her smile. Haruto angrily punches Takanori and finally confesses his feelings for Asahi. He also vows never to lose her to him. Takanori immediately stopped fighting because he only wanted Haruto to admit the truth about his feelings and stop acting clueless. After Haruto leaves, Takanori removes the 2 Subaru rings around his neck and buries one beside Asahi's grave because it belongs to her. He had collected it from Asahi's mother after she died. There and then, Takanori decided to give up on his feelings for Asahi. On the day of the dance, Haruto meets with Satsuki to turn her down politely. However, he didn't even get to say anything because, from the look on his face, she already knew his answer. Satsuki tells him not to say a word, but Haruto apologizes to her before leaving. After he leaves, Satsuki almost starts wailing, but Takanori arrives. He informed her that Asahi already refused to dance with him. After a few tear-jerking sad mumbo-jumbo, the 2 broken hearts decide to enjoy the dance together. Meanwhile, Haruto finally locates Asahi, sitting pretty and bored. He asks her to dance with him and also confesses his feelings with a shitty few words. Asahi happily agrees and drags him to the dance floor. In the real world, Nozomi can't stop thinking about Takanori. She recalls how he always looked out for her in elementary school when she was still a shy, timid girl. Along with him, the rest of the group was also kind and always helped her. After contemplating for a while, Nozomi fishes out her gaming equipment. Shortly after she logged in, she headed straight to the dance party to find Takanori and Satsuki dancing together. Nozomi was devastated because she thought they were in love. She quickly runs out of the hall crying and regretting coming to the party. Suddenly, her environment changes, and she falls prey to 2 shady Gnosis members. Satsuki and Haruto meet up 2 days after the dance. Things are awkward between them following the unfortunate love confession and subsequent rejection. Haruto and Asahi were worried because Satsuki didn't log into the game the next day after the dance. She had spent the day wailing like a baby because her childhood crush was over. The duo then agreed to remain best friends. Satsuki pretends to be fine and cracks a joke asking him to come to her if Asahi rejects him. Shortly after, they meet up with Takanori at Nozomi's house. Satsuki received a call from Nozomi's mother, who expressed concern about Nozomi's absence the previous night, prompting the group to investigate. Upon entering Nozomi's room, they found her gaming equipment on the table, and Takanori's analysis revealed that Nozomi had logged into the game 2 days ago. Satsuki recalls that the dance was 2 days ago. She fears that Nozomi saw her dancing with Takanori. Haruto suggests enlisting Clive's help before returning to the game. Soon afterward, they get on a video call and Clive informs them that he was able to track Nozomi's activities inside the game. Just like Satsuki feared, Nozomi came to the dance and left after 5 minutes. Clive informs them that she is still connected to Reunion, but he couldn't trace the IP address of her login. However, he was able to determine her location in Reunion. Haruto logs back into the game that night and finds Asahi happily decorating their hideout. Asahi and Haruto are acting all lovey-dovey when Clive walks in on them. He warned them to be careful because Satsuki was following closely behind him. Shortly after, the group heads out to find Nozomi in some creepy sky fortress created by her Dreamworld sense. The fortress looked like something straight out of a fairy tale nightmare. The scene then flashes back to one of Subaru's earlier missions before Asahi's death. Asahi had given them clear instructions with her powers, but Haruto disobeyed her orders. After defeating the monster, Asahi confronted him, and they got into a heated argument. Back in the present, the group makes their way inside Nozomi's castle. Satsuki wondered how she erected such a massive castle when she only logged in recently. Clive almost steps on a trap, but Haruto stops him before the ground crumbles. Suddenly, they are surrounded by Nozomi's giant fluffy familiars. Asahi approaches one of them and tries calling for Nozomi. It almost crushes her, but Haruto intervenes. The group immediately starts battling the giant teddies. Satsuki uses her flame to attack a few. However, the fire does not affect them as they keep advancing. She tries to destroy them but gets distracted when she sees Nozomi from afar. Thankfully, Takanori saves her and destroys the giant flaming teddy. Nozomi is jealous after witnessing this and sinks further into her deranged mania. The group is shocked to see her dressed in questionable clothes and terrible clown makeup. She then introduces them to her new team, a clown who is a dream mage like Nozomi and Marcion, a purple-haired woman with divinity sense like Takanori. Nozomi proudly announces to her former group that she joined Gnosis and created the castle with the clown. Anyways, it was showtime, and the clown summoned his circus of scary stuffed familiars. Haruto and the group start battling the stuffed animals, while Marcion and the clown begin phase 2 of the show. Marcion and the clown unite their magical powers to create a fabric that can absorb any attacks, which they call their entryway to paradise. Nozomi then summons additional huge stuffed animals. Asahi and Takanori attempt to persuade her to stop her reckless actions. Unfortunately, she blames Takanori for causing her heartbreak, which he stupidly fails to comprehend. She even calls Satsuki a floozy bimbo. Haruto also tries to persuade her to stop, and in response, she secretly releases a strange string into the paradise cloth. The string materializes behind Asahi and transforms into a blood-sucking worm, biting her. Asahi starts raging as the venom distorts her memories, screaming at Haruto and expressing her hatred towards him. Shortly after she passes out, Nozomi reveals that Asahi is experiencing a disturbing dream. Before vanishing, the clown informs them that Asahi will die tonight. As soon as Nozomi and her team leave, the castle begins crumbling. Thankfully, Satsuki flies them all out in time. Soon afterward, Haruto arrives at their hideout with Asahi. He wanted her to stay at Takanori's guild, but she refused. She didn't want Haruto to spend the night as he needed to return home to be with his little sister. Satsuki then arrived and informed them that Takanori had gathered his group to search for Nozomi's new hideout. Clive assured them he would watch Asahi while they logged out, mentioning that his college schedule provided more flexibility. They were taken aback to learn that he had skipped a grade and was already in college, no longer in high school. Takanori also put a few guards outside the hideout. Shortly after, Haruto and Satsuki log out while Clive stays with Asahi. Asahi is still worried about Nozomi's whereabouts in the real world. Clive assures her that Haruto and the others will find her soon. He is bored with all the sappy talk and leaves to catch fish. Meanwhile, the venom inside Asahi continues to fester. Takanori meets with Satsuki and Haruto in the real world to exchange updates. He already hired 10 detectives to search for her login location. He was concerned because Nozomi had said something troubling to him at the castle, and he wanted their help to understand her message. Haruto was just as lost and joined in on the pointless speculation. Satsuki was fed up with the bunch of clueless idiots and decided to help them. She explained that Nozomi had feelings for Takanori. She revealed that Nozomi had feelings for Takanori. She was upset because she had seen them dancing together and assumed they were in a relationship. Suddenly, their surroundings glitched and time seemed to warp. The drinks and cakes disappeared, and they realized they had lost a few hours. Out of nowhere, a mysterious man appeared behind them. The man informs them that the fate of the world is bleak and he desires the ability to create a perfect world. In essence, he was expressing his desire for Asahi. Haruto realizes he is a member of Gnosis. He attempts to strike the man, but he disappears and time reverts to normal. Haruto concludes that Alicia was correct and that senses can be used in reality. The scene then flashes back to when Subaru was still together. During another mission, Ashi gave them orders using her power. However, Haruto disregarded her and gave them new instructions. After defeating the monster following Haruto's orders, Asahi and Haruto got into another heated argument, and Haruto pointed his sword at Asahi. In the present moment, Haruto logs into the game to check on Asahi, and soon Takanori and Satsuki join him at the hideout. They had all logged in worried after the strange visit from the mysterious man. Clive returns from his fishing trip and they recount their experience to him. He mentions that the man must be the head of Gnosis, who Alicia warned him about. The group is concerned that they don't stand a chance against someone with real-life powers. Suddenly, the hideout starts shaking, and Asahi warns them of the impending collapse. The cave collapses, but Takanori manages to teleport them out in time. They then see a replica of a tower from their past where Asahi and Haruto had argued. The group immediately realized that Nozomi and her clowns had brought the battle to their doorstep. Shortly after, they head into the tower to find her. While investigating the tower, Asahi is reminded of the past. Haruto tries to check in on her, but she angrily snaps at him. As they continue to advance further, Asahi's power suddenly activates, and she warns Takanori to duck. The group swiftly prepares for an impending attack, but nothing happens. Asahi explains that she saw the vision of a monster, and it was about to hit Takanori. Soon a door in front of them opens, and Asahi enters a trance. Haruto tries to talk to her, but she doesn't budge. Haruto wants to leave the tower because of her strange behavior, and Takanori also supports him. Asahi comes to her senses and assures them she can continue. When Haruto refuses to listen, she shouts at him and continues advancing. Meanwhile, Alicia is seen standing outside the tower. Shortly after, the group joins Asahi and continues heading to the top floor, where they fought the final boss in the past. They finally reach the last floor, and Asahi resumes thinking about the past. Nozomi soon joins them, and Asahi tries to talk her out of her deranged mania. However, Nozomi feels no remorse for destroying their hideout or joining Gnosis. She knows they are only using her jealousy to manipulate her. However, she doesn't mind. She explains that she is tired of playing Miss Shy Goody Two-Shoes. Despite all their efforts, she ignores them and conjures numerous stuffed familiars. Following that, she undergoes a frightening transformation into a demon to exhibit her newfound powers. Takanori almost reaches her, but Marcion and the clown interrupt his tear-jerking proclamation to save Nozomi. Takanori vows to destroy them for brainwashing their precious Nozomi. Anyway, the fight begins, and the members of Subaru battle Nozomi's stuffed animals. Suddenly, Asahi starts hearing voices in her head thanks to the venom. The clown then summons his Dream World War arsenal and opens fire on the group. Fortunately, they evaded the attack. After the chaos, Nozomi is jealous when she sees Takanori and Satsuki standing beside each other. Satsuki tries to tell her the truth, but she angrily attacks her. Takanori skillfully blocks the attack, fueling her anger even more. He then escorted her to a secluded area after demolishing a wall. Once they arrive, he attempts to talk to her and inquires about her life since their separation 6 years prior. Nozomi, however, resisted and launched an assault. Surprisingly, Takanori refrained from evading her attacks. Instead of retaliating, he reminisced about a past mission where he got lost with her. She blamed herself for their predicament, but Takanori's sweet words cheered her up. He was the one who told her to break out of her shell and enjoy her time with her friends. Takanori finally confessed that he had feelings for Asahi. Nozomi is shocked when she learns that Satsuki also has feelings for Haruto. She only saw them dancing because they were trying to console each other. Nozomi finally realized that she turned a love triangle into a messy entanglement. Takanori then apologizes for fueling her misunderstanding. Even after all the heart-wrenching messy explanation, Nozomi punches Takanori and informs him it is too late. She was ashamed because her misunderstanding led her to put her friends in danger. However, Takanori refuses to give up. His sense awakens as he starts approaching her. She attacks him with her stuffed animals, but they are immediately destroyed when they come close to Takanori. He finally gets close to her, and with one touch, Nozomi returns to her senses. Takanori then apologizes for not noticing her feelings for him in the past. After some more tear-jerking speech, Nozomi is moved to tears. She admits that she transformed her life after changing schools. She wanted to approach Takanori as a more confident and cool girl. After the heartfelt mumbo-jumbo, Takanori embraces her and uses his power to remove the evil sense possessing her. Nozomi's demon transformation vanishes, and she returns to her real self. After the transformation, Nozomi is devastated as she realizes the consequences of what she did. Takanori assures her that everything will be fine. In a romantic K-drama twist, he embraces Nozomi and promises to reciprocate her feelings. Nozomi's happy moment was cut short when she remembered that her venom was currently eating through Asahi's mind. After Takanori and Nozomi fell into the hole for their K-drama romantic moment, Marcion and Clown proceeded with their plan for Haruto and Asahi. They didn't need Nozomi because her part was to plant the seeds of doubt in Asahi's mind. They then surround Haruto, Asahi, and Clive with the Paradise Cloth. Satsuki tries to free them, but the cloth sucks up the attack. To stop her from disturbing their show, Clown attacks her with his cannons, while Marcion yaps on about turning Asahi into a supreme being. She informs Haruto that Asahi will bring everyone to Utopia. Haruto and Clive then combine their power to attack them, while Satsuki provides support from outside. Clive creates multiple clones and attacks them. Meanwhile, the light in Asahi's eyes shuts off. After destroying Clive's clones, Marcion and her clown let their guard down. Suddenly, Marcion is bound by his wires and Clive appears before her. Clown is distracted by him and doesn't see Haruto above him. Asahi calls out to Haruto, which distracts him, and he doesn't strike the clown properly. The attack only affects the clown's shoulder. Haruto tries to attack him again, but Asahi tells him to stop, so he stops. She then begins to dish instructions to the group mindlessly. While they are distracted by Asahi's delusional rambling, Clown frees Marcion from Clive's wires. Haruto attempts to bring Asahi back to reality, but the venom has completely consumed her thoughts, causing her to relive the argument with Haruto. In her distorted memory, she imagines Haruto attacking her, leading her to shoot him. Regrettably, she also ends up shooting him in real life. Asahi only snaps out of it when she realizes the consequences of her actions. As she grabbed Haruto and started screaming, Satsuki tried to calm her. Suddenly, Asahi's power awakens. Clive tries to intervene, but Marcion shuts him inside the deadly cloth. Marcion and the clown are excited as things continue moving according to plan. As Asahi awakens, the clown traps her inside a crystal. While racing back to the top floor, Nozomi narrates how she distorted Asahi's mind inside a dream and amplified her emotions. That is also why she recreated the tower where Asahi fought with Haruto. Nozomi is worried because she doesn't know how to stop the poison. Takanori assures her that Subaru will figure it out. Meanwhile, Satsuki summons the Elemental Kings to protect her while she heals Haruto. Clive, on the other hand, tries to stay alive while the clown is hell-bent on killing him. Satsuki couldn't find a way to heal the damage on Haruto, so she used magic to delay the drop in his HP. Marion finally traps Clive while Clown tries to finish him. Fortunately, Alicia arrives just in time to save him. It is revealed that Marion and the clown have also been searching for her because she was a pain in their arse. While they are discussing, Asahi's glass prison suddenly shatters. Haruto, on the other hand, finds himself in an empty black hole. After walking for a while, he finds Asahi crying. He tries to approach her, but she moves away. Asahi was afraid she would hurt him again. Haruto cleans her tears, telling telling her to stop crying. He then reminded her of the real memory and everything that happened that day. It is revealed that Haruto attacked the monster behind Asahi to protect her that day. After defeating it, he had promised to become stronger and keep her safe. In the present, Haruto is finally revived, and he awakens his true power. Asahi has also regained her senses, and thanks Haruto for keeping his promise. He also thanks Asahi for reviving him. Marcion and Clown are disappointed as they realize they awakened Haruto in the process. Realizing they are now outmatched, Clown suggests they return to headquarters. However, Marcion is too proud and refuses to return without Asahi. Takanori and Nozomi finally arrive after all the blockbuster events. Marcion and Clown are now outmatched 7-2. Satsuki wants to capture them alive for interrogation. However, Haruto is too angry and only sees red. Marcion surrounds the group with her deadly magic cloth, while Clown plants his inside the circle. Satsuki tries to move, but Takanori stops her because Haruto is in his cool power era. The clowns inform Asahi that her friends are about to be toast. She assures them that Subaru will never lose. The clown then discharges the weapons. However, Haruto uses his cool newly improved lion powers and tears the deadly cloth apart. Marcion and Clown are shocked as they watch paradise disappear before their eyes before the blast destroys them. Meanwhile, the mysterious head of Gnosis watches the whole show from a screen in his lair. After the battle, Satsuki scolds Haruto for being overly dramatic with his powers. She wanted them alive so that they could get more info on Gnosis. Meanwhile, Nozomi still feels like shit for dragging her friends into her delusional mess and she apologizes to them. Asahi happily hugs and welcomes her back to the team. Nozomi burst into tears as she apologized for saying some pretty mean things to Satsuki. Takanori finally meets the famous mysterious Alicia. Satsuki and Asahi want to settle their beef with her for sneaking around Haruto. Asahi reminds Satsuki to thank her first before getting down to business. Because of the vision from the red crystal, Asahi thanks Alicia for saving her, even though she doesn't remember it. Alicia is happy and mentions that they haven't changed. They are all confused because they have never met Alicia in the past. She ignores their question and gives Haruto the sheath to his sword. She explained that she found it lying on the floor in the Dead Sea. Haruto revealed that their group name Subaru means Pleiades, a star system with 6 stars. He asks Alicia why the sword Pleiades has 7 jewels instead of 6. Alika told them that Subaru is a star cluster that looks like 6 stars to some people and 7 to others. While talking about the different legends, she suddenly vanishes without them noticing. Soon afterward, Takanori returns to the real world and finally reunites with Nozomi. He promises to take responsibility and explain things to her parents. After some touchy-feely moments, she thanks him for saving her. Meanwhile, Clive is seen in his foreign university computer lab. He receives a message from Takanori informing him that Nozomi is safe. Satsuki has also logged out and fell asleep while looking at their team picture. Meanwhile, Haruto receives a group message to meet in reunion the following day. He is happy that Asahi's dream has finally come true. Haruna, Haruto's sister, wakes up that night to see him smiling happily. She is excited because she has not seen him like that before. She informs Haruto that he looks happier than before. Haruto responds with a smile as he recalls the reason for his happiness. The following morning, all 6 members of Subaru gather for their first action together in 6 years. Clive wants to jump straight into a mission. However, Takanori wants them to rebuild their hideout. Nozomi tells them to let her rebuild it since she was the one who destroyed it. Asahi also offers to join her, and the girls agree to make it cuter. Haruto and Satsuki are worried because the group Lolis might make the hideout too girly. Clive and Takanori support the girls as long as they are happy. Haruto sees Alicia watching the group from the shadows as usual. Shortly after, she logs out and listens to weird news about the exposure of some shady organization and a special law put in place for persons in possession of sense. On her screen, we see her in a picture with the members of Subaru. It was the same picture on Satsuki's desk. However, Alicia was not present in Satsuki's picture. Could Alicia be the 7th member of Subaru from a different reality? Tell us what you think in the comment section below.